So I guess with this new law or ruling or regulation, I'm not sure what it is, that I guess we're going to have to consider different ways of getting water. I have a well here, it's about 100 feet deep. It's got a 15 gallon per minute well pump in it. It's one of those submersible pumps. When we first got here, it was just a hole in the ground. It was an old, decrepit well, and I had to rebuild it basically. I mean, I'm glad there was a hole in the ground, but everything had been messed up or destroyed. It had a well house made out of cinder blocks, but a tree must have fallen over and busted that up. And the concrete at the ground was all busted up. The well pump was gone, so it was in bad shape. I redid this for $500, and I figured that's a really good deal considering if I'd have had to dig a new one, it'd been anywhere, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000. So I have a piece of property here for $4,200 with a well on it, and I just had to do some work on it. Now, it has been a challenge. I didn't know anything about wells or how they worked or why they work. So, I mean, I had to research everything. And the first thing I had to research was pumps. Now, we could have gotten an above ground pump, but I'd have had to do all kinds of PVC connections, and it would have worked, but also I would have had a freezing problem. This way I don't. Got the well pump down there, and it's a 110 volt well pump, 3/4 horsepower. And so I'm able to run that off my generator, my little 2,500 watt generator, or solar panels. Now today it's pretty cloudy. I probably could have ran it. I just chose not to. On really cloudy days like this, I skip a day. Just fill an IBC tank. It's a 275 gallon tank, and there's plenty of water in there to skip a day. And the more I use it on the with the solar panels, the more I'm comfortable using it on the solar panels. And I've got it where now, if on a sunny day, I can start this well pump about 9:30 in the morning, and I can let it run till 2 o'clock. Then I need to shut it off so the batteries will charge up from the previous night's use running the freezer, and that way I would have enough electric from 2 to the end of the day to charge the batteries so I can run the freezer throughout the night. Now I have 1,200 watts of solar panels, which means, you know, do the math, 1,200 or 800. So I'm still getting a little bit of extra electricity, so when the freezer kicks on, you can run the freezer. Now, we did try to run the well pump and the vacuum cleaner at the same time. She turned on the vacuum cleaner when I was trying to run the well pump, and it wouldn't go. So, I mean, we are limited, but that's a 2,000 watt inverter, and it was just more than it could handle. Because the startup of things, you got to have a soft start. I think the inverter does have a soft start, but I don't think it works if something has already depleted the energy from it. Soft start recharges once there's no load on it. So I redid this, did a new concrete base, put a well packer down in there so the water wouldn't run down into it, made a new well liner, put a brand new pump in it. You can find those 110 pumps on Amazon. We got a French drain here to kind of keep the water away from the well as it runs down the hill, and then I got in a little ditch that keeps the water away. And now the well's perfect. So the only thing I have to be careful of now is running the well out of water, because the pump pumps much faster than the recovery rate of the well. The recovery rate's 5 gallons per minute. The pump is 15 gallons a minute. So yesterday, I didn't think I was running it that fast, but I guess I was running faster than regular. I filled the IBC tank, and it really didn't need much water. And then I went to fill Carolyn's sinks so she could do laundry. And I was just filling these buckets and carrying the buckets over. That way I didn't have to move my hose over there. I ran out of water. It's not a huge deal. You just got to be quick on your feet, because what happens is that pump will heat up and seize up. So you got to be quick. Now, the nice thing is I got this regulated just about right, where the recovery rate can keep enough water in it that I can get down to the hill to shut off the well. Now, I've thought about putting a switch here. That way I can just shut it off here, but I'm afraid that's going to make me lazy. So I shouldn't have ran the well out of it. I've been here long enough now to know how to do it, but I guess I just thought there wasn't that much water that I needed. The other thing I've done is I've recently readjusted the length here. I pulled the pump up a little bit because it was starting to get dirt from the floor of the well, because the well pump was too close to the floor. So I pulled it up a little bit. So that means now there's even less water to pull from. So it's just a new learning curve. I will tell you, even though it's not that fancy, you know, I built this building around it. It keeps the water away from it. Each side is 2 feet extended past the base. The base is 2 feet, which is regulation. So from center of the well hole to the side is 2 feet. And then I extended this out another 2 feet. So that keeps water away from it up to 4 feet from the center of the hole. I've drilled a little hole. You'll see that black pipe there, I think. I drilled a hole in that pipe about 70 feet down. That way the water will drain out of that pipe in the wintertime, well, all year round, but specifically in the wintertime, there's no water in the pipe to freeze. That's why having a deep submersible pump like that was important to me instead of an above ground one. I also don't have a pressure tank because the pressure tank would freeze. You got all that to worry about when you're living off grid. People will say, oh, you can get a heater, you can do this or that. Remember, I have a limited amount of electric with my solar panels. Now, I used to run this off the generator, but we've just made the solar panels more efficient because I've got a new charge controller, a couple new solar panels. That has been a huge savings. As far as gasoline, this thing, I would think used about 5 gallons of gasoline every month or so, maybe a little bit less. Of course, I have that dual fuel propane gasoline generator and I was running propane. And I would say that it was using propane probably every month or so. About 50 hours is what I was getting out of it, 30 to 50 hours. But now running on solar, we're not using any gasoline or propane. Those preppers talk about SHTF. I really do feel like now that I could survive it. Water is life. If you want to control a population, you control the water and you control the food. Well, nobody can control me. I've got both. I'm sure that somebody's going to say, oh yeah, they can. But for the two basic essentials in life, I've got it covered. So what does government do? They try to take those things away from you. Well, then you just have to rethink your situation. So a lot of off-gridders will collect rainwater. And I guess that's okay since so many people do it. I'm not seeing a big advantage to it other than you don't have to spend so much money on a well. I think it would be advantageous to try to either drill a well, that brings up the value of your property, or find a place with a well. Now, we looked pretty closely at 2 pieces of property. We looked at 10 acres for $7,200 and it had a well. And we looked at this place and it has a well. We don't have enough roof space for rainwater, so we would have to go out and actually build things. On Google, you can Google this and you can find out how much rain your area gets per year. And then you can calculate based on that information how big, again, go on Google, how big of a roof you need to collect enough rainwater for the water you use. Now, you need to think, unless you're like me and Carolyn, that most people use about 200 gallons a day. Now, that's a lot of water. I don't know how many people use that, but that would be for 2 people, 400 gallons a day. Carolyn and I don't use that much. We use about 30 to 50 gallons a day, depending if we're doing laundry or not. But we've learned how to really conserve water. I know when Carolyn's son was here, it really increased the amount of water I had to deal with. We didn't regulate his water. We didn't tell him he had to control it or anything. So I would say on average, people probably do use about 200 gallons of water per day. But you have to think about flushing your toilet. Of course, we have systems in place. We don't have to do that. We use a lot of our already used water. So when we flush the toilet, we take water from the sinks, from the laundry, save that, and then we can flush the toilet with that. Also, your farm animals are going to require water. The more farm animals you got, you really got to think about water. Those chickens, believe it or not, we got 15 or 16 of them. I think we just lost one. Both of us have counted. We can only count 15. I know we had 16. So one must have came up missing. The other thing you got to think about is wintertime. Wintertime is tough dealing with water. We have this IBC tank and we have it heated. So heat from our house, ventilation, I got ventilation running from above the shower inside the house. So the ventilation sits right basically 2 feet away above the wood stove. And I got a fan that pushes air down into this insulated box. Now it's not completely airtight. You can see I got gaps in it. I didn't really put that much effort into it. So the air can come out. Now people will say, no, what you need to do is bring that air back into the house and it's constantly recirculating. Well, when you do that, that means you're bringing cold air into the house. You live in there, so I don't do that. I mean, it makes sense, but like with your furnace, you're recycling it through your house like that, but it just doesn't make sense here. That would be cold. So we can get down to -4 on this, and then the RV pump freezes. We have an RV pump in there that pumps the water from the tank into the house. The reason we do it this way, somebody's going to ask, why do you do it this way? Why not just hook it up so the well pump pumps right in the house like most people? It's because at nighttime and on cloudy days, we wouldn't be able to have any water. With the RV pump, we're only using 72 watts, whereas with the big pump, we're using 800 watts. So we can't run the big pump, the well pump at night. That's why I set it up this way. Now people tell me, oh, you can make it more convenient, it can't have shut off a switch and all kinds of stuff. Well, then you got to think about winter again, because if you're running water from here to the tank, this hose is going to freeze. So I disconnect this hose every time I do it, and I run it so all the water drains out. So just to keep everything evacuated from water and it doesn't freeze. I don't think people think about the freezing aspect, especially when you're talking about stuff during the summer. People just don't consider it, but it is a huge thing we have to consider. Now, another thing you can do, we almost bought a piece of property with a stream that went through it, and you can collect the stream water. But the thing you got to think about, either with collecting rainwater or stream water, is how you're going to clean it. It's got to be cleaned. Now, you can get a Berkey, but you're going to really go through a lot of filters with the Berkey, and those are pretty expensive, $160. Now, we have a filter on this, just in case I get the water dirty somehow or another, but I'm going to leave them on there. I think I figured out everything so the water's not getting dirty, but I'd much rather leave them on just so my IBC tank doesn't get dirty. I got 3 of them, sediment filter and 2 charcoal filters. So I'll just leave them on. That way I'm safe. But if you're having to try to figure out how to filter water, and then you still got to sanitize it, you got to either use iodine or bleach or a Berkey. You got to do something to clean it, because even your roof is dirty. I have to clean my roof every year, otherwise it looks filthy. Now, there is one other option that you probably have the best results with. Natural springs. We have a natural spring down the hill. I've showed you that many times. And if we ever have a problem with water in the short term, as a backup plan, well breaks or something, I will get water from the natural spring. We got water from the natural spring when we were nomads in Virginia, and just different areas had natural springs, and you can go and get it. That is definitely an option, but of course now you're hauling water. I know, you live off grid and it's supposed to be a lot of hard work. I'm too old to live off grid, and you know, I hear that all the time. No, I've set up my life so I'm not working hard. It was kind of the point. I don't want to work myself to death getting water out of the well than carrying water from that natural spring. Last year I reported on California, and they're wanting to have everybody who has a well pay for their water usage. So if you have a well, first thing they want you to do is they want you to give them $300 every year. And then they want you to put a meter on your well, and then they're going to charge you, I don't understand it, $36 per acre foot. Now, a lot of people said, no, that didn't go through, and it only applied to farmers, that they have to pay for it. But that's not true. Everything I read says everybody who owns a well. So if you have a private well like this, you're going to pay for the water usage. So that means you pay to drill the well, you pay to get the pump in there, you pay to the electricity, and now you're paying for the water. This will expand. Even a lot of states won't allow you to collect rainwater. I do believe Oregon is one of those that won't let you collect rainwater. Maybe California, I don't know. It's just illegal, you can't do it. In some states, they consider water a public utility, which means it's regulated by the public. And who regulates the public? The government. And here's the thing, I hear people say this all the time. If it's happening in Europe, you know it's going to happen here. Well, it's more likely if it's happening in California, it's going to happen in the rest of the world. I would imagine more states are going to adopt this, especially the states that are in constant drought. Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, they'll start regulating water. I know when we were in Arizona, you had to buy water everywhere you went. It was just, I mean, I could get into that story. In Missouri, everything under your property you own. So if there's oil here, or gold, or whatever, it's yours. But some states, that's not true. You don't own the mineral rights. So when you're doing your research on living off grid, There are only a few states that really allow you to live off-grid, Missouri being one of them. Not near the cities. Get away from the cities. Even a couple of counties away from the cities is important. But out here, there's nothing. Nobody, everybody lives in old houses or Home Depot sheds or RVs. This is the way to go. So if you click this up next box to take the video where I was talking about, we got robbed. So if I can inspire you to figure out your water situation so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.